Welcome back. At the end of the last video, I pointed out that when you add the letters IST or ISM to the end of the word elite, it gets real complicated. So complicated that one nerd wrote an entire book about elitism without ever defining what it means. Only what it means to him, from his perspective, up amongst the elites, looking down at the rest of us. That was kind of special. Another nerd wrote a deeply incisive look at elitism in America. Unfortunately, bless his heart, he pretty much went insane due to a full-blown case of TDS. Hopefully he's recovering, because this guy packs the gear to be a part of the solution to the problem. The point is that elitism is a very complicated topic, but I'm pretty sure that nerds would agree that I did a pretty good job of putting it in a nutshell. First of all, a dictionary will tell you that an elitist is a person who believes in rule by elites. After what I said last time about elites, you might be saying, uh-oh. Elitism is an ideology, a strong, almost religious belief in an idea. The main idea of elitism is that rule by elites is best because it's a meritocracy, defined as rule by the most outstanding, most worthy people who merit, who deserve because they've earned higher status because of their awesome talent or accomplishments. It's really important to understand that in a democratic meritocracy, it's the people's love, respect, and esteem for a leader's talents, for that person's knowledge, wisdom, integrity, and judgment, as well as his or her real-world accomplishments that cause the people to lift, to elevate that leader to a higher position of status and power. Virtually every liberal in America was flabbergasted when Donald Trump won the 2016 election. On the right, a few nerds predicted his victory, most famously Ann Coulter, who was literally laughed at during the campaign when she predicted he would win.
And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones, right now, Donald Trump.
On the left, a nerd by the name of Cenk Uygur was the only one that I'm aware of who predicted Trump would win. These nerds got it right because they understood this principle of democracy elevating a leader to power. And they understood that relative to Hillary Clinton, Trump was more highly respected, was perceived as having better judgment when it came to solving America's problems, and had real-world accomplishments, not just credentials in place of accomplishments and three-word slogans. Getting back to the point, meritocracy is definitely a good thing, in theory. If you've got any common sense, you're aware that what's true in theory ain't always true in practice, especially when credentials, which can essentially be bought up or gifted down, become a substitute for actual talent or accomplishments. To me, it is laughably absurd that in 2020, after social engineering epically failed to launch top-tier candidate Kamala Harris to the position of Democratic Party nominee for president and then the White House, she was simply gifted the position of president for all intents and purposes by making her vice president under Biden, who will most likely be retired in 2023, is what most political analysts predict. Political science nerds point out another big old problem with today's meritocracy that's no doubt as much due to vainglorious pride as what psychology nerds call justified true belief. Because elites by definition merit, deserved because they earned higher status, elitist politicians tend to justify as true their belief that they are also entitled to greater wealth, power, privilege, and being above the law when it comes to certain kind of crimes. A really important point I want to make is that meritocracy, at least in theory, is a good thing, and it is completely compatible with democracy. I'm sure everybody would love to be able to vote for the most wise, most knowledgeable men and women with the most integrity to be in charge. The problem is elitists already in charge tend to believe that they not only deserve but are entitled to be in charge. They have no interest in allowing we the people to lift up awesome leaders, much less Donald Trump, to replace them, but instead believe that they are entitled to pull up people helpful to them, like Kamala Harris, regardless of what we, the mere voters, want. In other words, they don't really believe in democracy. Of course, they'll say they do, and to them, this is not really lying. As Hillary Clinton famously pointed out, leaders like her need to have a public position and a private position. Otherwise, people get a little nervous, to say the least. In a nutshell, elitists in charge of both of these corporations doing business as political parties believe in a twisted version of elitism that includes the thoroughly un-American belief, self-righteous attitude, and self-serving opinion that elites like themselves are entitled in their meritocracy to wealth, power, privilege, and being above the law. Not to mention entitled to take advantage of our democratic system for their own profit. It's important to understand that not all members of this group of people called the elite are vainglorious elitist a-holes like that. Just some of them are. Everybody's heard the old expression, rich people suck. That ain't true. I know from personal experience working for them that some of them are awesome. Same thing with elites. That's why it's important to be able to use your thinking tools to discern the difference. I also need to point out that a member of the elite is almost never a totally elitist a-hole or totally awesome person who's actually elite at something, if only at being an elite human being. I needed to point that out because there's a psychology true fact called binary thinking that naturally tends to cause people to think that way. The main point I want to make in this video is that among the many thousands of awesome elites in this country, there are quite a few true nerds in the fields of political science and economics. They figured out the fundamental conflict in American politics a long time ago. Nerds figure stuff out. It's what they do. Now, you might think you know what the fundamental conflict is, might believe you know what it is, but it ain't the conflict between the two establishment parties. That ain't nothing but a dog and pony show, a cheap circus to make you believe that's what the conflict is. Remember, no solution is possible if you blame the wrong thing for the problem. Like I said, true nerds figured out the fundamental conflict a long time ago. You were maybe taught about it in school as being a conflict back in the 1700s, but that was literally history, as in history class. I'll be nerd whispering what that conflict was, and still is, in my next episode. Hope you join me. If you like this video, why not click the like button? I'll put a link to the next episode over here.